The PDP, yes, has Ribadu as a superstar candidate, like I said, but they're up against like very, very serious fight. I mean, Atiku is there; he's a factor, even if he's not running for any office. But he's from Adamawa State; he has influence. The APC has serious structure. The Northeast has serious sentiments, sort of against the ruling party from what people saw with the voting patterns in the presidential elections. So, is Ribadu powerful enough to sway things for PDP?
I'll give you the 50-50. Okay, let me be fair. Let me be objective. I'll give you the 55-45. 45 win for Ribadu. Because the APC in Adamawa State has, like you said, plenty of heavyweights. There's Atiku there. There's of course Atiku and all the other guys. Bindao too is a grassroots mobilizer and all that. But then you find out that Adamawa is one of those northern states that has the number of people who are enlightened in Adamawa State is quite high. And these enlightened ones, they like the Ribadu figure, for example. They like the
because the state has been traditionally PDP for a while.
Yeah, and that'll also be a factor because Ribadu has been there. He's credible. He's done a whole lot of stuff. He's known internationally as somebody who's an anti-corruption Caesar. I think that factor could come into play. But like you said, which is quite correct. Do the grassroots people really know him? I don't know how far he has campaigned in Adamawa State, but the feelers I get from that state, I think he has done quite a bit of work. And let's not forget the fact that PDP has a whole lot of big men, a whole lot of solid men in the state. There's Buba Marwa, for example, who's a recognized and respected person in the PDP and in that state. And I mean, it could go both ways, but I'll give it more to the APC candidate than to Ribadu.
Okay, we're watching that very closely. It's going to be an interesting one. But let's move on now to the fifth largest economy in Africa, if you were a country, Lagos State. Lagos State is by no means the most important, whether we like it or not, in this country. And the governorship race is as exciting as the presidential race was. It became even closer for a lot of people since the presidential elections held. People are now not so sure what's going to happen. The presidential elections were separated by a few 100,000 votes, I think. It was really, really close. Now there's Ambode and there's Agbaje, who was on our show actually 2 weeks ago. And it's very, very, very close to call. How is that going to play out? We saw the PDP winning seats in the House of Representatives for the first time in Lagos State. I think about 5 or 6 seats were won by the PDP. So it looks like things are starting to look different.
Yeah, I think the presumption here is that what happened at the last election, the presidential election, is going to happen at the governorship. And it's not exactly so, because the issues of this election in Lagos State, they are not exactly the same with those that really preoccupied the minds of the people for the presidential election. In Lagos, we are talking about a government that has performed well, creditably, in the last 16 years. We're talking about a government that is working, and I think it's almost a consensus everywhere in Lagos State. Even the PDP, the people that are agitating to get into power in Lagos State, they are not saying that the APC hasn't done anything in Lagos, or that Lagos is still what it used to be 16 years ago. They have not even articulated clearly what.
But there's people who have said that there are certain parts of Lagos where people have actually genuine reasons to want to have change. Because you go to certain parts of Lagos and you wonder, are we really being treated fairly? Do you think don't you think that's going to be a factor? And those are huge populated places.
Exactly. So in Lagos State, it's the question of, this is where we are. We have done so well in 16 years. We have done all of these things, being in the opposition, having not enough to do all the things that our people deserve to get as democratic goods. We are at the point where the state is in a good position to take advantage of aligning with the federal government to do so much more for the people. Do we abandon all of that and go like 16 years back? Or do we want to take it from this point, align with the federal, and take Lagos State to where it should be? So these are the important questions for the next election in Lagos State. Lagos has done well. The Lagos government has done well, but it can do better. And we are looking at bigger opportunities, especially as Lagos people prepare to align with the federal government.
That's a very, very important point there, because people have said, why change anything? I mean, there are places where you don't just change for change's sake. People think Lagos has worked sort of seamlessly in the last 16 years. Smooth transitions, governors have worked even without federal allocation, like we had in the first 8 years of our democracy, where Governor Tinubu almost had nothing coming from the federal government, but he still served as governor and managed to do a few things. how does the PDP plan to take that out? I mean, we know that the race seems close, but is it close enough to a place where people are going to say, okay, yeah, let's just change because we want to change?
Okay, first of all, I think we should, this alignment stuff, I think we should nip it in the bud. I mean, alignment what? Let me state for the records that I campaigned for and I voted for General Muhammadu Buhari. Let me state it for the records. I did it because I believe leadership should be about somebody who's strong enough to be his own man, and then somebody whose policies are people-oriented. That's why I voted for General Muhammadu Buhari, and I believe he's a gentleman, he's a fair man. He's not going to be unfair to states that are not aligned with the APC. He's going to be fair to all states. That's the kind of person he is, and I believe that's going to happen. So the alignment stuff, it doesn't cut it for me. Now, like I said, politics or politicians I believe in are politicians who are whose policies are people-oriented and who are men of their own. And I believe that factor is going to come to fore in these Lagos elections, because many people are disgruntled by the APC government in Lagos State. That's revealed by the fact that they had there was 120,000 or something gap between both candidates in the presidential election. Let's not also forget the fact that many of the people who voted for Buhari, like me, will also vote for Jimmy Agbaje because they feel change should cut across all boards, and not just that, because they feel like
for the sake of change,
not just for the sake of change, not just because of that, but for the fact that they feel like the development has been centered around elitist areas. People think about Lagos like Lagos is just the island, just Ikeja, for example. People live in Alimosho, people live in Okota, people live in Ejigbo. You want to drive there and see the condition of roads there. You want to see the standard of living there. Security is not the prerogative of just.
But isn't that what the APC is saying now? That they've started something. Why not let them continue and see the progress continue?
No, what's the guarantee that they are going to continue that progress? And what's stopping this Jimmy Agbaje guy who people are rooting for? What's stopping him from actually taking the state from the level it's at now, not just developing it marginally, but taking it ahead, leapfrogging it to heights that are beyond comprehension, making Lagos a state that competes with global cities, global mega cities like New York, for example? What's stopping us from taking it to that level?
Bimbo, I've heard this elitist argument a lot. How does APC try to shake it off? Because it comes up a lot where people say the APC has centered a lot on the island, building toll gates and fancy expressways, and Ikeja, dualizing. They are constantly repatching roads in these places, and Surulere, where the governor is from, without necessarily focusing on places like you mentioned, Okota, Ejigbo, and all of that. How is it going to be shaking off? Because it looks like it's a general perception.
I think in politics, it's easier to come up with any question at all, any issue, and articulate it like, it's actually true. But for Lagos, I really wouldn't like to see Lagos as an elitist government, the Lagos state government. If you look at some of the projects that Fashola has done in the last, 8 years, you see projects like creating access roads from the city to some of the villages around. I know that in the last 1 or 2 years, the government has done about 6 roads like that. We see a government that is providing free education. Free education, not for the elites in this case, because we know where they put their kids.
But there's been talk about how
the
government has been sort of insensitive with the banning of okadas, demolition of Makoko, things like that. And people think it's going to continue when, if APC continues in office, things along those lines. So it gives a sense.
Okay, so where I'm coming from is this, that the APC or the Lagos state government has actually done well across board. And this is not really about the elites. Programs like free education and all of that, creating access roads and the rest for villagers to come to the city. That's for the poor. Now, if we are talking about the Okada ban and all that, there's been misinterpretation of this law itself. Or let me say that the way the law has been implemented is not the way it was, conceived by the legislature.
Let me just quickly ask you this before I go. We can't talk about all of this without talking about Jimmy Agbaje himself, because a lot of has been said about him and the fact that he hasn't necessarily worked in government before. The one company he ran, he never opened branches. Other than that, he's going to be able to handle a state as massive as Lagos, especially with the personalities that are around him in the PDP.
Okay, where do I even start from? Okay,
very quickly.
Jimmy Agbaje, the man himself, He has not held any government position before. He has been running his private business for the last 30 years, and people have said all sorts of things. Okay, first and foremost, two of the greatest Yoruba men, so to speak, Lateef Jakonde and Awolowo, they never held government positions before they came, and they changed the whole system. They made things work for the people. And that is, so leadership is not necessarily about your experience in particular government. Jimmy Agbaje has worked in the private sector for a long time.
But he's running against someone who has worked in government and proved.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean the other guy is the better candidate. Jimmy Agbaje's experience in the private sector, at the time he was the sole distributor of Pfizer products in the whole West Africa. So his business is...
Okay, we need to go now. Before I just quickly go, I mean, I know who you're going to call, but who's going to win?
Certainly
quickly.
A victory is for Ambodi.
Nah, Jimmy Agbaje.
You think he's going to win?
He has this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
April the 11th is going to be very interesting. We're going to be here. Of course, channels will be here like we were last week to bring all of the details to you as the results come in. Thank you very much for being here today, Bimbo. I know you have a lot more to say, but unfortunately we have to go. Thank you very much, Chidi. Good luck to all the candidates. Hopefully it stays peaceful as the presidential elections were. Now, like I always say, you can join the conversation on Twitter. YNigerTV is the handle. The hashtag to follow is Rubbin Mind. You can also visit the website yniger.com/TV. Remember, you've never seen young people talk like this before. I'll see you next week.
Say, hey, we represent, what else?